The Institute for Nonviolence Chicago has been around since January of 2016, so we're just a little over 3 years old. A lot of people say to me, why haven't I heard of you? And I say, well, we're still really new. We're a baby in the nonprofit world, right? If you remember 2016, there was a pretty dramatic spike in violence in the city of Chicago. 2014 is when Laquan McDonald was killed. 2015 is when that video was released. They asked my executive director, Tenny Gross, to move here from Providence, Rhode Island, where he was running a successful nonviolence organization. The year he moved here and started the Institute for Nonviolence, they had 0 youth homicides in Providence. It was the first year they'd had none. He was there for 16 years. He started off in Boston. He is Israeli and moved to the United States when he was about 24 to study photography at Tufts, and now is doing nonviolence work. So I'll let you figure out that path. When he came to Chicago, he looked at several neighborhoods. He interviewed people in those neighborhoods. He talked to people in churches. He talked to people on the street. He talked to people who had worked for Ceasefire. And chose Austin, which is where we began. Our flagship office is in Austin. It's at 819 North Leamington, so Chicago and Leamington Avenue. And he chose that area because it was the most violent and had historically been the most violent for at least a decade, right? Then he met a Catholic priest named Father Dave Kelly, who runs Precious Blood Ministry of Reconciliation down in back of the yard, so at 51st and Elizabeth. And they were doing some really great restorative justice work, but they didn't have an outreach team. So he said, we'll partner with you and provide the outreach component to your work. And then West Garfield Park is our neighbor in Austin, and they are, per capita, the most violent neighborhood in the city of Chicago. So we work there. We deliberately chose these areas, right, because they are the most violent. I'll start off with some good news now. That from 2016 to 2018, Austin saw a 68% reduction in gun violence. Do you ever hear about that? Do you? Because I hear all these people were shot this weekend. Look how horrible the city is. Guess what? This Memorial Day weekend, those people weren't shot in Austin and West Garfield Park. You know what the people who were shooting were doing? They were playing in a basketball tournament that the Institute for Nonviolence organized. I saw that. And so those shootings did not happen in these neighborhoods where they have historically happened. Things are getting better. I want to bring to you a message of hope. When you hear Kejuan, you'll have an even better message of hope. He gives it much better than I do. He's much wiser than I am and has a lot fewer years on him than I do. I'll tell you a little bit about what we do at the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago. So we provide street outreach. So we're notified of every shooting and homicide in the 9th, 11th, and 15th police districts. We respond within an hour. We try to stop retaliations, and we provide victim services. So one of the things that's unique is that we have victim advocates on staff. So we don't just say, hey, put your gun down. Hey, stop selling drugs. We say, what can we do? There's clearly a lot of trauma in these communities, right? People don't just wake up at 7 years old and say, God, I think I'm going to be a shooter when I grow up. That's not what happens, right? There's a lot of trauma, a lot of disinvestment, a lot of poverty. Our streets in Austin and West Garfield Park are occupied territories, okay? We have police on every single corner there. So when we talk about providing outreach, we know that that means prevention as well as intervention. We have to provide an option. We also have case management and reentry case management because Austin and West Garfield Park have the highest number of people reentering from prison and jail. And so we help them get a job. We're starting a workforce development program that's going to incorporate some cognitive processing therapy for people because there is significant trauma. And we also have nonviolence training that Nancy was talking about that we can provide in a 15-hour stint, a 4-hour stint, a 2-hour stint. You just ask me, I can make it whatever you want. We have some great trainers on staff. I'm not one of them, but I often go out with them as a fill-in. So, and then we do community organizing because we know it takes all of us. I'm really excited that you invited us here today. I want people to understand that the violence that's plaguing our city, while it is concentrated in certain areas, it impacts us all, right? Our GDP could probably be 5 times what it is if our streets were safer. We could have jobs, we could have safety. Our kids could all go to schools where they could get equal opportunity, so they weren't starting at a disadvantage from jump. We can do this. That nobody wants to come here for tourism because they're scared they'll get shot. We have cab drivers in Africa that ask my coworkers if they're safe being in Chicago, because that's what the national narrative is, right? So they came together, and we have a fund of about 35 to 40 million, which is about a quarter of what we need to really impact the whole city. They started READY, which is a program that Kejuan is a part of, and that program provides cognitive behavioral therapy as well as a transitional job that is subsidized for 18 months, and then they're supposed to get them into a full-time job at the end of that and follow them to make sure they keep that full-time job. And that's in 4 neighborhoods right now. That's really expensive, as you can imagine, subsidizing employment, right, and providing therapeutic services. And then we have CP4P, Communities Partnering for Peace, and that's in 9 neighborhoods where over 50% of the homicides occur annually. And that program has helped us bolster our outreach component, our case management component, and there's an outreach academy. So many of us have professional certifications, right? I am an Illinois certified domestic violence professional. But the field of outreach for a long time didn't have that professionalism. So what we did is we helped to create an academy that's 144 hours long, where outreach workers from all over the city can come and get a professional certification. So they graduate, we have a ceremony. It's really important to the work. We have police officers who come into this academy. Okay, we also work on police accountability. We work very closely with the officers in the 11th and 15th and 9th District. And then we work closely with Chicago Cred, Arnie Duncan's group, if you all know that. So Susan Lee, who's just been appointed to head this Office of Public Safety, has worked with Tenny for many years and came from Chicago Cred. So we feel like we have some strong support in the mayor's office now to really do some work. We're also sitting at coordinating tables. Would you all believe that Chicago hasn't had a city office to coordinate violence interruption and violence prevention? We haven't. And so now we finally have it. I would ask you to keep pushing for this. Get online, look up the INVEST campaign. Push your elected officials to support this. It's $150 million, 50 from the city, 50 from the state, and 50 from the county that need to go into this work to really support this statewide effort to get violence in check. We have to do something. It's not enough to just say, oh God, that's awful, when we hear that on the news, right? We all have to get involved in this. If you want to get involved with the Institute for Nonviolence, I have my cards. There are several ways. I always start off with donations because I'm the development director. I have to. And we need that long-term sustainability, right? We've been around for 3 years. We know it's going to take about 10 before we're really at a place that I can start saying to you, hey, will you come back and open a factory in Austin? We've got a bunch of empty buildings, right? So we need those donations. We also need people who can help provide us with toiletries. Most of our participants are male. Most of them are not stably housed. So we need things like deodorant, soap, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrush, t-shirts, boxers, socks, that kind of thing that will hold up for people. We also need you to tell other people we exist. We need you to tell people there is something good happening in Chicago, and it's not enough for us to all just sit around and, well, I won't use the word I would usually use, to sit around and snark about it, okay? We need to know there are people doing good work and that we want to help. We'll come out to churches, we'll come out to other groups, but there is good work being done and it's making a difference, and you're going to hear what a difference it's made when Kejuan tells you his story. So this is Kejuan Scott. We do a lot of these together, but he's one of my most favorite people on earth, and he's going to tell you about his work with the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago. So thanks, everybody.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Nancy and Tara, for having me. I'm gonna come around this way. I'm gonna go this way, you guys. Everyone can hear me good? Y'all hear me good? Great. Okay. My name is Kejuan. I started out with Institute Nonviolence coming up on a year now.
Yeah.
I'm coming up
No,
on
you're past a year. It was May.
Oh, yeah, actually. Yeah.
It's over a year.
Over a year. Thank you. She keeps me sharp on my feet. And I'm a married man with 6 kids, actually, you guys. I'm 27 years old. I'm a victim, I'm a survivor, I should say.
That's right.
A survivor of gun violence in Chicago. And it wasn't too quick after I got shot when I joined the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago. It was those reasons. And my children as well, you know, I wanted a better life for myself. I wanted out. Like they said it before me, I wanted out. You know, I was one of the guys that was, you guys would probably say, when you first see me, like, I'm not even going to, honest to God, truth, if you guys would have seen me last year, a couple years prior to this, and you probably would think, you would have passed the judgment that I wasn't the type of guy that you would have in your presence right now. And to be up here actually saying this is a blessing, to be standing in front of you guys, because God turned my life around a whole 360. I don't sell drugs anymore. I don't do anything that breaks the law. I oppose the law to every extent now. And it's like, by me being a law-abiding citizen, I see things for what they are now. I see a better vision in life for my children. My children they look up to me as their father, their provider, their protector. And I use the nonviolence 6 steps and principles, which I've learned throughout over the past year. I learned that nonviolence is for courageous people. And I was one of the peoples that had the courage to step outside of my own self and look at what was around me and going on in my lifestyle. And as I reflect, I seen the road I took, it wasn't the road that was destined for me. I know that God had a better purpose for me. I know that by Him putting all these children in my life, and that those are called responsibilities, that I have to take care of my responsibilities now. And as a man, standing 27 years old, I stick firm to believing in my children. I put my all, my time, my everything into my children. And when I came a part of the Institute, I ran the basketball tournament. I'm from Austin. I'm from the Austin community, and I was once a part of one of the street gangs that they say my street gang was more violent to my neighborhood. So once I started partnering with the Institute, working for these guys, it showed a decrease in my neighborhood around my blocks that I'll run down 24/7, day in, day out. There's no shootings going on. There's no drug selling that's on these blocks at these hours, and people are following the trend. It's a trend that's going around that the Institute of Nonviolence has started. It's called Peacekeepers. We keeping the peace in our neighborhoods. By me doing this basketball tournament for the month and a half that it was no violence throughout the neighborhood. We kept the violence down, and the commander of the 15th district saw that as well, and he gave me kudos. Right now, to this day, if he see me, he would stop his car, his patrol car, and say, "Hey, you still doing your work? I'm proud of you, man. Keep it up. What you doing, you got a lot of people that's following your lead." He says the violence has decreased ever since you started doing the work you're doing around here in this Austin community, man. I'm proud of you. Keep it up. And I'm gonna give you guys my tragedy. My tragedy was me being shot. I got shot the day after my anniversary, my 3rd year anniversary. So this is my 4th year anniversary of being married. And I got shot May 5th, 2018. And that was the eye-opener for me, because when the officer came into the hospital room and I was laying in the bed, and he showed me an image of the vehicle I was sitting in, the gunshots were in the headrest of the vehicle, the front windshield, the driver window was shot out where I was sitting at, and I was only struck one time. I was only hit by one bullet, and I got hit in my right hand. Wow. By the grace of God, I put my hand up trying to stop but by the grace of God, I was only struck in my hand and nowhere else over my body. But to see where all those bullets had hit, and to only see that I came out with just a hand, with just hitting the hand, It was a blessing to me, and it was like everything in my power and me said, man, it's time. It's time to give it up. Now those same guys that I led down that road of poverty, of making it seem like we was going, insanity, I'm gonna say that, it was insanity to think we gonna do something different out of this. But to lead these guys down that road now, and to turn around and look at them and say, listen, I led you through the mud, now let me lead you through the light. Me saying that is, I led you down the negative route, now let me lead you to the positive. Let me open your eyes up to what God opened my eyes up to. I go out into the community, I do relentless engaging with people about talking about how to change their life around, how to come a part of Ready. I talk to parole officers to help formerly incarcerated people get into Ready. I do more than what I'm expected of, and I'm glad, even if it's volunteering. If I have to volunteer my service, that means this volunteering time that I'm doing, who knows? I could be doing something drastic with that time that would probably cause me to go back to the penitentiary. I've been at the penitentiary one time. It took one time for me, one time and one time only. I don't even know what it looked like again. This is how long I haven't been there. I don't know what it looked like anymore. But that goes to show how I've been gone from that life. It took only one time for me to take down that road, and I said no for the penitentiary. But as far as when I was dealing in the streets, all I knew was, hey, where my next dollar was gonna come from, what I gotta do to survive. Now, I wake up in the morning, I thank God for waking me up, and I go to work. I go to work to a job that I love working doing. Like, I have a passion to help other people change their life now. Since I made the 360, I know there's other guys out there that's younger than me, older than me, that's watching me. And they probably be scared right now. They probably be scared. They don't have the faith, the courage right now that I had when I changed. But I'm still gonna be the guy that's gonna be on their back. I'm gonna be the monkey on their back saying, no, let's change, let's change, let's change, let's change. I got a better route for you. You did this, how about let's do this? I can't stress it enough, the fact that the Institute has helped my life and impacted my life so much, is that I never even thought of myself even trying to be a homeowner, going into law enforcement, or doing any of these things. I have a criminal background, and my background is worked on right now getting expunged and sealed. It isn't a bad background, but I have a few things that I backslid down the road. But God, like I said, once again, God has put everything in front of me to help me out. Everything that's going on right now, it's the process that I had to go through. So my process is coming to an end. I'm out of the dark. I'm under the light. And I'm going to continue to roll through this light. I won't backslide, and I mean that part right there, because that's my ultimate. There's nothing there is nothing that I can't put my mind to without doing. There's nothing I can't do without setting my mind to do it. So anything I put my mind to, I'm going to always stay focused on doing it. One foot in front of the other, time by the time, and day by day. The change is made within me. Now it's time for me to turn around and change the rest of the crowd behind me. Thank you guys for listening.
So Rika, are you okay if we start question and answer early? Is that okay? I'd rather talk to you than talk at you. So if you all have questions for either one of us, we're happy to answer. Sure.
I'd like to ask you something. Will your background, will that get completely sealed? No one will know anything about it, and you can move on with your life, or will that always be a cloud behind you? That criminal background, as you call it.
Yep.
Could you repeat the question? Yes.
He was asking if his record could be completely sealed or if it would still follow him.
It will be completely sealed.
So no one will know you ever went.
So there are only a few crimes in Illinois right now that can't be sealed. Yeah, so right now it's domestic violence, sexual abuse, DUI, and animal abuse that cannot be sealed or expunged. Those are the only ones that can't be. We currently have a coworker who is, we're hoping to have his, he has a murder conviction from 1975. He's been doing this work for over 10 years. He's been shot doing this work. He's a phenomenal man. We're hoping that he can get his record sealed.
Does that take a lot of work on your part to get it sealed? Or do you have to jump through hoops, as they say? You got to do all kind of things?
No. Actually, I just had, I'm working closely with a law firm that's helping me get my record expunged sealed.
Sure.
I have a more global question.
Sure.
Because I heard Arnie Duncan speak not too long ago, and one of the statistics he mentioned,
It's on.
was that both the sum of the murder rate in Los Angeles and New York is less than that of Chicago. And I'm wondering to what you would attribute that. And
So I will say that's true. That's very true. And Susan Lee, who I'm going to keep saying her name because it's exciting that she is the deputy mayor now for public safety. She actually authored a paper in LA that really helped them to decrease the homicide rate. Part of what happened in both New York and LA is they had a consent decree, which we now have, right? So they had some major turnarounds in the police department. And they also had the type of intervention that now we have. But they had about $30 million annually going into this work, right? So doing this, tax money, doing this, so public dollars, it needs to be a combination of public and philanthropic, because we all know about Chicago, right? I would hope there is no corruption, and but I also know that we need our philanthropic partners to stay in the game, right? We all need to have some skin in this game. And so what we know is that with that kind of investment and the work we're doing on the ground, so part of what we're doing this summer for CP4P partners, so in those 9 communities, so what we all do is we have light in the night events. So 3 nights a week from 5 to 9, we host we ask the commanders and the community members, what are some areas that you really enjoyed, like parks that you enjoyed that are now too violent for people to go to? And we host events in those areas to help the community take back their own areas. Mm-hmm. So we have concerts, we have bouncy houses, we have a petting zoo, we have the Chicago Sinfonietta come out and do instrument petting zoo, different types of activities. We provide food at these, and we provide services. So we're out handing out our cards, and we often get mothers and grandmothers who will bring Kejuan in by the ear and say, you need to talk to him, right? And it's a lot easier to do if you're outside at a park. They don't have to bring them to our office. If we're in their neighborhood, it's a lot easier to get to one of our outreach workers, right? And a lot of guys will say, hey, what are you about? How can I get involved with that? So those types of things really do make a difference. They really do decrease violence. And we know these things work because they have worked in cities like New York and LA. Yes?
Could you tell us a little bit about how staffing and how you're organized, how many people do you have?
Sure. So we have 68 staff. We grew dramatically from 2016 to now, from a staff of about 25 to a staff of 68. Our budget went from 1.5 million to 5 million. A lot of that was bolstered by being a part of these large partnerships with Ready and Communities Partnering for Peace. And then we also have a FLIP program, which is where we ask young men who are our participants to stay on their block. So the block where you hang out, where you sell loose cigarettes, where you are, keep it safe. Okay? We'll stipend you $100 a night. Keep it safe. If something starts happening, call one of our outreach workers. We also train them so they know nonviolence and know how to mediate conflicts. We have the largest staff is in Austin, and then West Garfield Park, and then we have the 4 outreach workers in back of the yards, and we do have a victim advocate in back of the yards. They have their own case management component there and their own restorative justice component. We're very administratively light, so there are 4 of us in the administrative office.
I'm gonna hit on the Ready portion.
Yes.
Okay, we are Ready makes up the 7 partnerships or 8 partnerships?
There are 8 partnerships, I think, but it's in 4 communities. So yeah, and we have 13 ready outreach staff.
And we are in Austin, North Lawndale, and Inglewood.
And West Garfield Park.
You know they make up for North Lawndale.
No, it's still West Garfield Park.
Yeah, so that's North Lawndale and West Garfield Park. And with Ready is a partnership through coming down from Heartland Alliance. And with Ready, you have 4 stages, okay? You have 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you have to move up. It's like a promotion as you go through stages. And really, Ready targets high-risk individuals, whether you were high risk to either gun violence, either you were the perpetrator or you were the victim. So, like they said, we're not telling them guys to stop the shooting, but we're going to show you guys a better way so you won't have to resort to this. We're going to give you a transitional job. We're going to give you a paid transitional job. We're going to start you out at a salary of $12 an hour, and you work your way up through the ranks. By the time you reach level 4, you should be making, probably $15 going out the door into a high-paying job for $22, $23 an hour at the end of it. But in the beginning, they have us on the streets, walking the streets. Community refertilization at level 1. At stage 2, you will be transitioning over into Chicago Animal Care and Control, where I just left, because now I'm in stage 3. On my way into we're working up into stage 4 to be on my way out the door. And as I'm in stage 3, I'm in training with Nancy. I had a nonviolence training the other day for the past 3 days. And I'm working my way to be an ambassador for the Institute Nonviolence Chicago. So therefore, I'm not just gonna be in community speaking, I'm gonna be in people's buildings, workplaces, and more office space speaking about on how to get more individuals involved, but not in settings like this, but in parole offices, parole summits, meeting with more parole probation officers, Cook County Jail, and things like that. But I'm going to send this card around right here. It has my name and everything on it, and it has a seal from the city of Chicago on the back of it, but at the bottom you'll see that it does say Chicago Animal Care Control, if you can pass it around. And
Kejuan, tell them that today you finished buying for all of your kids for their summer clothes.
Yes, it is.
Nancy is my good friend. I was speaking with her earlier, and I was letting her know that today I actually finished my summer shopping for my 6 children, for all 6 of them. Like someone usually gets left out. Everyone doesn't get what they want. Someone has to get left out when you're less fortunate half the time. So by me not living the street life or anything like that, it was a couple of getting left out. It was more than one getting left out this time. So now it's like I'm at a point right now just by keep constantly working and saving my money and budgeting, I'm able to get everybody situated. It's taken care of, everyone.
That costs about as much as a car.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Here's the question.
Kejuan, are the people who are involved in this violence also involved in selling drugs? And if that's the case, when they stop getting involved in this, how do they replace the income that they were getting by selling drugs, or by some other reason?
That's easy right there, because okay, the guys that are involved in violence, 9 times out of 10, they are the guys that's selling drugs and trying to provide for their family. But there is a difference between that, the guys that are causing violence and the guys that are selling drugs. See, the difference between that is the guys that want to cause the violence is they're probably relating off something that happened in the past trauma or recent things that someone probably did to them or their family member or loved one that they're connected with. And then the guys that selling drugs these are guys that are providing or trying to make a way for their family or their upbringing, that they didn't have the education to go get a job or something like that, you know. And to change that around, it's like me. I use myself as an instinct. I don't sell drugs. I used to sell drugs day in, day out, and I never thought I'd be up here saying this, that I'm not a drug dealer anymore. So I have to attack them guys and challenge them guys for what they want. Okay, if I stop you from selling drugs, what can I offer you instead to compensate you for not selling drugs? Or if this guy's trying to cause violence, hey, how about you halt? You stop right now and let me talk to you. Let me give you some encouraging words that'll stop you from going to do something to someone else and make you want to come with me.
And that's why Ready is so important, right? Because the Ready program offers that transitional job, and they're making more money than they're making on the street, right? There's a misconception that people are making millions of dollars out here, and that's not true.
It's not true.
Right? And so we offer them the Ready option. We also offer workforce development, and there are several job training options in our communities that we offer them to help them. So we're not just violence interrupters. That's what those wraparound services are. So that's important. And we can pause on that note so you all can eat if that works, and then we'll still be here to answer questions afterward. Is that okay? Okay. Sure. We believe in hyper collaboration. Any of you who have done social work or have worked with nonprofits in the city probably know how siloed this work has been forever, right? So I'm going to go after my pot of money, and I hate you, don't come after it, right? Well, that doesn't work, right? We work for an organization that's based on Dr. King's steps and principles of nonviolence. That means we start from a place of love. Any of you who think love is hard have never had a family or a significant other maybe, or a cat as my life goes, but I will tell you, love is hard, okay? So to love people through ups and downs, is really difficult. We know that, but we also know it can be incredibly rewarding, right? So we start from a place of love with our partners, with our participants, with those in our communities, because we believe in that. And that matters to us, and it matters that we live our life like that every single day. So we say, okay, we have this opportunity, you apply with us. Let's do this in partnership, right? When Back of the Yards needed an outreach component, Tinny said, we'll help with that. We'll provide that. We had to work a really long time to make some inroads into areas that had been very isolated for a long time with some really heavy gang activity, but we got those inroads, and now we've helped to build a truce, and that has really helped. Go ahead.
I want to ask you, how far you go with these children? Do you go to their families? Do you talk to their families? Do you know their situation at home? Is there any help there?
Yeah, there is help there. And that's the outreach component right there. Outreach goes into these homes, and they talk and see what situations that they're having in home that's causing them poverty or, you know, less fortunateness.
And she was a pediatrician. Tell her about your experience with the doctor and what we did when they made fun of you for getting shot at a funeral.
Oh, wow. Okay. My medical physician, my doctor, she one of a kind. She one of a kind for this one. She made fun of me for being shot at a funeral. That was the tragedy to my story too. I was shot at a funeral. I was going to put a friend to rest, and he wasn't even 16 years old. He was 15 years old. He was a baby. He was a 15-year-old young man, and he had his whole life ahead of him. He was he had a bright future in the music industry, and unfortunately he was killed to gun violence. And I was going to my doctor on a follow-up for my hand, and she made a joke out of it. She cracked a joke out of me being shot, and by being at a funeral. And the way she said it, it was like, whoo! She just threw it out there, and like I was just supposed to take it in and just go by my way, live with it. But instead, I took action upon that. you know, I couldn't just sit there and just let her just say something inappropriate like that.
So we filed a formal complaint. Kejuan and I typed up word for word what happened and filed a formal complaint. So we advocate, I had him to tell that story to show, we advocate in all areas. And if people do have children, so we helped Kejuan with holiday gifts this year for his kids, all 6 of them.
I played Santa.
Yes. So we do help, we talk to them about what needs they might have. No, we work with those, and I didn't say this, and I should, we work with those who are at the very top. If you think of the pyramid, so you think of that bottom layer of, people do intervention services, right, in school. They do some mentoring, some supporting of kids who could go either way. That middle tier, they might have been in a little bit of trouble, but you can get to them with some of those programs like BAM or WOW, those mentoring programs. We work with that top tier of the pyramid. So it's about 0.3% of the population that are doing about 70% of the violence in most major cities. So we work with those who are most likely to shoot or be shot. And most have been involved with our criminal legal system at some point before. Any other questions or? Yes.
I don't know how many years ago we had some type of gun legislation in the state of Illinois, and then I think it was struck down because of legalities being sued by the NRA and whoever else, manufacturers of guns. As an organization, are you working in any way to try, that was very effective, you know, the gun legislation at that time. And now that we're just sort of overwhelmed with what is happening, as an organization, are you involved in any way of trying to recreate this type of influence?
So because we're a 501c3, we cannot lobby. So we can't be involved directly in political activity. But the Illinois Gun Violence Prevention Coalition, we're a member of. And they do support, like gun dealer licensing just passed in the state of Illinois. There is a bill that's it's not an order of protection, but it's a type of order of protection if you want to get someone's guns taken away because you're fearful that they might do something. So there is some legislation that's being worked on right now. We have a good group of people in Springfield to do this work at the moment. And we are a part of some coalitions, but as a 501c3, we can't technically lobby, although we support smart gun laws.
What about Sarah?
I
Sarah
met
Crucial.
Tara
Yeah, that's who.
through a gun trial,
The Illinois handgun, I can't remember, ICHV, Illinois Coalition Against Handgun Violence, I think is what it is. So that's how we came to meet each other. So we do.
Accountability and the gun bills.
Right.
Dee was on that with us, and Tara was on.
Oh, the Chicago Women Take Action, the Gun Violence Prevention and Police Accountability Board. Are you Bill Clancy? Are you?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Bill.
He's Dee's husband.
Yes. Okay, I know your wife. And your son. And your daughter-in-law, actually. But does anybody else have any other questions for us?
I got one more.
Yeah.
It seems the long-term problems are going to be in jobs. And we're losing jobs to technology on a daily basis, and at every level. Before it was just the bottom rung of society, but now it's going up to the medical field and everything. You know, that's an issue that is really going to affect it. I don't have an answer or anything.
So I do. I have part of an answer. So I can tell you that there's also a huge loss of workers in construction and the trades because they're aging out. And not enough people Kejuan's age are looking to go in. Those are well-paying jobs, and we are working. We're working with unions to see if there's something we can do in partnership. So we're constantly at the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago trying to talk to people and get in front of people to say, hey, people like Kejuan matter, right? He made some mistakes, but good Lord, if people held me accountable for everything I did when I was 16. But for the grace of God. So I think like we have to really be realistic and say there are these jobs that are available, and there are, I forget the numbers, but there are places like Revolution Workshop and then our workforce development program that are training young men to go into those types of jobs.
I want to add into that too. We got to, people that's my age, we got to start educating our children as well, because they're the future. And my 6-year-old daughter is my IT. She's my IT child.
Yeah.
She's who I go to for everything technical support.
Yeah.
It's my child.
It's true.
It's true. So we just got to.
Everybody's case.
Right, yeah, exactly. To hear somebody 27 tell you that, right? I'm like, oh. Did you have one more? Did you have a question too?
Oh, yes, I just wondered how you came to the work.
Me, personally? I moved here 20 years ago. I'm 42, everybody. I graduated from college and I joined AmeriCorps. And I became a legal advocate for victims of domestic violence on the South Side in an organization called Family Rescue. And I did that. I became a supervisor of that program. And then my executive director said, hey, would you apply to be our development director? I said, I have no idea what that is, but if you'll teach me, I'll do it. So at 27, when I thought I knew everything, I became the development director. And she taught me how to do that job. So she said, you can talk to people and you can write, you can do this, right? And I had a passion for the work. I still have a passion for working with survivors and victims of domestic violence. But I did that for about 6 years, and I was working a lot. I was working about 60 or 70 hours a week and making not a lot of money at all. And one of my good friends who had been my boss was at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and she said, there's this opening, why don't you apply? And you'll be able to do more direct service again. So I applied to be the deputy director for the victim witness unit, where I could work with people. I grew up in a funeral home. I should start there. My dad was county coroner until he passed away, and then my mom was. I actually drove my dad in the hearse to the cemetery, right? So my background is in helping people. And then I was at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office for about 6 years. That administration changed. My good friend was on the advisory board for this organization and said, hey, they're doing some great work and they don't have a development director. Why don't you talk to them? So here I am. I love it. I was hired July 17th, 2017. I love this work. I feel like this is truly, truly my life's mission. So I feel honored to be here. He helps me with that. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you all a story to end this. Are you okay?
Walk out.
He's going to step out for a minute.
It was good seeing. It was good being here, speaking with you all. It's just I can't really feel it. I'm getting emotional.
Thank you.
Left.
Take that mic off.
So our week was a bit of a difficult week, right? And it started off last Friday night. So you'll see I have 2 cell phones because we are notified at the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago of every shooting and homicide that happens in the 9th, 11th, and 15th district. A lot of times we know people by their nicknames, right? So Kejuan's nickname used to be Monster, and that's how a lot of people knew him, and they didn't know him by his real name. Chippy was a guy who was he's about 6'6". They called him Chippy because he was missing a front tooth. He was hilarious, full of life. He would always come in and mess with us and hug us and just always had something to say about everything, right? He wanted to change. He was 24 years old. On Friday night, my phone went off and said, 2 people shot, this address on Fulton. Travell Rogers is one of them. I know Travell is Chippy. I reach out to Sam, who's the program director at Ready, and I say, Sam, it's Chippy. It's Chippy that's been shot. That's Chippy. That's Travell. He said, let me check. He sent me back. It's the same date of birth. Hopefully it's just a coincidence. So I I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I grew up in a funeral home, remember, with a dad and mom who determined cause of death. I said, where has he been shot? And they said, in the head. I said, how many times? Multiple. So please let me know what happens, right? I know what's going to happen. Please let me know what happens. So at 12:45, I get the call. He's gone. I call Kejuan. I say, are you okay? I'm not okay, Tara. I'm not okay. I don't understand why this keeps happening. I don't understand why we keep killing each other, why I keep losing my friends. Chippy was in the wrong neighborhood. People's memories are long. Even when these young men try to get out and they're doing the right thing, people have long memories. We shouldn't make people pay forever for the mistakes that they made. Chippy paid with his life. I can't stand for any more young men to pay with their lives. None of us can stand that. None of us. We have to fight back against this. We have to. So I ask you to donate. I joke about being the development director. I want you to know I put in unbelievable amounts of hours talking to these young men. I write grants and I do this speaking. I wear a dress. And then on the weekends and on the evenings, I'm in jeans and a t-shirt at a basketball tournament. I'm taking Kejuan shopping for groceries. I'm going to a young mother's house who was holding her 1-year-old baby and was shot and killed to take her 7-year-old son some Spider-Man toys so maybe he can make it through the funeral. Because guess what? The father of that 7-year-old is another one of our participants. Our communities are surrounded by trauma and violence. What you're doing by being here, by listening, by becoming a part of this, it makes a difference. It makes a real difference. I appreciate you so much. I wanted to tell the story about Chippy because his name deserves to be remembered, right? We think about remembering names. That's important. If you go to Holocaust museums and you hear the names read over, it's important to remember people's names, right? Don't forget Chippy. He was a bright light. He was a really bright light. Sure.
Until recently, I was a Chicago public school teacher, and I was in elementary school all of my career there. And one of the things that was so hard to get a handle on was regarding gangs, where I think most of the violence stems from, is the kids are forced to join a gang to start with. They couldn't just say no because people would come after school and, they would just take a kid in a headlock, and they picked him up and they threw him on the ground after school one day. And, even if this kid didn't want to be in a gang, he really had no choice. And it's like
and there are a lot of,
the beginning is never ending.
But if we can get those guys to stop going to school, right? So we work with those guys that everybody has given up on. There are a lot of services for prevention. Not enough. We always need those.
Right.
But but if we can get those guys to stop going to school, what I'll say is that a lot of that, the organized gang activity is not what it used to be, right? So it's not what it used to be. But that doesn't mean we need to stop fighting it. That doesn't mean we can just sit back on our laurels, right? We have to.
It broke my heart that these, young kids were looking at this violence. This little boy was like 9 years old.
It's trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. When you think about the racism and the poverty and the militarism that these young children face from the time they are born in this society, it's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. And we have a responsibility to stop it, and we have a responsibility to talk to each other about it, because it's important that white people understand this too, right? It's important that we're talking to each other and with each other. That's why I ask you for questions. I don't want to talk at you. I could, all day long. But I don't want to. I think it's important that we engage each other in conversation. And I think, I know that's what Dr. King tried to do up until the day he was killed for it. Thank you all. I have my cards. If you want to donate, you can donate online or send checks, or I'll come to your house and pick them up. If you have wine, that's even better. So I thank you again for your time today. We appreciate it. It means a lot to us. Thanks.